My mom stated I should cancel my engagement party because my entitled sister deserved the attention. So I uninvited the family. The meltdown that ensued was pathetic and perfect. I, 31M, thought planning an engagement party would be the happiest time of my life. Instead, it became the moment I finally saw my family for what they really were and decided I'd had enough. My fiancé and I had been together for 4 years. We'd saved up for months to throw a decent party at a local venue. Nothing fancy, but nice enough for the people who mattered to us. We sent out invitations 3 weeks in advance, booked the catering, arranged for flowers, and even hired a small band. Everything was falling into place perfectly. That's when my mom called. She started the conversation normally enough, asking about the arrangements and whether we needed any help. I was actually grateful for her interest since she'd been somewhat distant about our relationship from the beginning. My fiancé came from a working-class family, and while Mom never said anything outright, her subtle comments over the years made it clear she thought I could do better. But then the conversation took a turn I wasn't expecting. Mom mentioned that my sister had been having a rough time lately. Her boyfriend of 2 years had broken up with her about a month ago, and she'd been staying at Mom and Dad's house, crying every day and barely eating. Mom said my sister felt like everyone around her was moving forward with their lives while hers was falling apart. I expressed sympathy. Breakups are hard, and despite our complicated relationship, I didn't want my sister to suffer. But then Mom dropped the bomb that changed everything. She suggested that maybe we should postpone the engagement party. Just for a few months, she said, until my sister was feeling better. She explained that having a big celebration right now would be insensitive to my sister's emotional state. Mom painted it as if our happiness would somehow make my sister's pain worse. I was stunned. I told Mom that we'd already paid deposits, sent invitations, and that our friends had made plans. But she pressed on, saying that family should come first, and that a truly loving brother would understand his sister's needs. Then came the kicker. Mom said my sister deserved to have all the family's attention and support right now. She actually used those words, that my sister deserved the attention more than we did. I felt something snap inside me. This wasn't the first time my sister had been the center of everything. Growing up, every family gathering, every holiday, every milestone had somehow become about her. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, the dinner conversation centered on my sister's anxiety about starting her sophomore year. When I got my first promotion at work, Mom spent the entire celebration call talking about my sister's job search struggles. My sister had always been dramatic, but my parents enabled it. Every boyfriend who didn't work out was treated like a tragedy of epic proportions. Every minor setback in her life became a family crisis that required everyone's energy and attention. And somehow, my achievements and happy moments always got pushed aside to accommodate her emotional needs. But this was my engagement party. This was supposed to be about me and my fiancé starting our life together. I told Mom I understood my sister was hurting, but that canceling our party wasn't the solution. I suggested my sister could skip the party if being around happy couples was too painful, and we could plan something special for her another time. Mom's tone shifted immediately. She accused me of being selfish and uncaring. She said I was prioritizing a party over my sister's mental health. She even suggested that my fiancé was turning me against my family, which made my blood boil. The conversation ended badly, with Mom hanging up on me after saying she was disappointed in the man I'd become. I spent the next 2 days stewing over it. My fiancé was incredibly supportive, telling me she'd be fine with postponing if I really thought it was necessary. But the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Why should our happiness always take a back seat to my sister's drama? Then my sister called. She started crying immediately, telling me how hurt she was that I wouldn't postpone the party for her. She said she felt abandoned by everyone, and that seeing me celebrate love right after her relationship ended felt like a slap in the face. She begged me to understand that she just needed her family to support her through this difficult time. Something about the way she said it felt manipulative, like she was performing her grief rather than genuinely experiencing it. I found myself remembering all the times she'd pulled similar stunts. The mysterious illnesses during my college graduation, the dramatic meltdown at my cousin's wedding that required 3 family members to leave early and comfort her, the way she'd somehow managed to make my promotion celebration about her student loan stress. I told my sister I was sorry she was hurting, but that canceling our party wasn't going to fix her problems. I offered to help her in other ways, paying for therapy, helping her find a new apartment, even planning a family dinner just for her once she was feeling better. But that wasn't enough. She accused me of not caring about her, of choosing strangers over family, of being cruel and heartless. She said she'd never felt so alone and that my selfishness was making her depression worse. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I told my sister that if attending our engagement party was going to be so traumatic for her, she didn't have to come. In fact, I said, maybe it would be better if the whole family skipped it. That way, she could have all their attention that weekend, and we could celebrate with people who actually wanted to be there. The silence on the other end of the line stretched for almost 30 seconds. Then my sister exploded. She screamed that I couldn't uninvite the family, that I was being ridiculous and vindictive. She said I was ruining everything and that Mom and Dad would never forgive me. I stayed calm and told her the decision was made. I said I'd call Mom and Dad to let them know they were no longer expected at the party, and that we'd have a separate family dinner sometime in the future when everyone was ready to actually celebrate our engagement. Then I hung up. The phone started ringing again immediately. First my sister, then Mom, then Dad, then my sister again. I let them all go to voicemail. I needed time to think clearly before dealing with the inevitable drama. My fiancée found me sitting in our kitchen, staring at my silent phone. When I explained what had happened, she was quiet for a long time. Then she asked if I was sure this was what I wanted to do. I realized it was the first time in years that I felt completely certain about a decision involving my family. I called Mom back that evening. She was furious, accusing me of throwing a tantrum and punishing the whole family because I didn't get my way. She said I was being immature and that my sister needed support, not abandonment. I explained that I wasn't punishing anyone. I was simply choosing to surround myself with people who wanted to celebrate our happiness instead of those who saw it as an inconvenience. I told Mom that the invitation was rescinded not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. Mom threatened that if I went through with this, there would be serious consequences for our relationship. She said I was forcing her to choose between her children, and that what I was doing was unforgivable. I told her that she'd already chosen. She'd chosen my sister's comfort over my happiness, just like she always had. And now I was choosing my own peace of mind over family drama. Dad tried a different approach when he called later. He attempted to play mediator, suggesting we could all compromise somehow. Maybe we could have the party, but dedicate some time during it to acknowledging my sister's difficult period. Or perhaps we could make it a smaller, more subdued celebration. I appreciated Dad's attempt to find middle ground, but I realized that every suggestion still centered on accommodating my sister's emotions at the expense of our celebration. I asked Dad when it had become my responsibility to manage my sister's feelings, and why our joy was always secondary to her pain. Dad didn't have a good answer for that. The week leading up to the party was chaos. Extended family members started calling, having heard about the drama through the family grapevine. Some supported my decision, saying they'd watched my sister monopolize family attention for years and were glad someone was finally standing up to it. Others thought I was being harsh and urged me to reconsider. My sister tried calling my fiancée directly, crying and begging her to convince me to change my mind. My fiancée listened politely but told my sister that she supported my decision completely and that we were looking forward to celebrating with people who truly wanted to share our happiness. 3 days before the party, Mom made one final attempt. She showed up at our apartment unannounced, with my sister in tow. My sister's eyes were red and puffy, and she looked genuinely devastated. For a moment, I almost wavered. Mom said they'd come to apologize and ask for another chance. She admitted that maybe they'd been putting too much pressure on me to accommodate my sister's needs, and that she understood why I was upset. But then my sister started talking. She said she'd realized that maybe she could handle coming to the party after all, if we could just make a few small adjustments. Could we maybe skip the speeches about love and future plans? Could we not play romantic music? Could we make sure she wasn't seated near any couples? I stared at her in disbelief. Even in her apology, she was trying to reshape our engagement party around her emotional needs. She wanted to attend our celebration of love, but without any of the actual celebrating of love. I told them both that the uninvitation stood. I said I appreciated them coming, but that their presence at the party would clearly be a source of stress for everyone involved. I suggested we plan a family dinner in a few weeks, where we could share some photos and cake from the party. Mom's fake composure cracked. She called me selfish and spoiled, saying I was destroying our family over a party. She predicted that I'd regret this decision for the rest of my life and that my sister would never forgive me. My sister just cried harder, saying she felt like she was losing her brother forever. I felt a pang of guilt, but I held firm. I told them I loved them both, but that I refused to sacrifice my happiness for family peace anymore. I said the pattern had to stop somewhere, and this was where I was drawing the line. They left, but not before Mom delivered one final threat. She said that if I went through with this, I shouldn't expect them at our wedding either. She said I was choosing my fiancé's family over my own, and that there would be consequences. I told her that was her choice to make. Update 1. The engagement party was incredible. Without the looming dread of family drama, I was able to actually enjoy the celebration. Our friends were amazing, my fiancé's family was warm and supportive, and even some of my extended family who'd heard about the situation made extra effort to show their support. My cousin gave a speech about how happy he was to see me with someone who brought out the best in me. My fiancé's father welcomed me into their family with genuine enthusiasm. Several friends shared funny stories about our relationship that had everyone laughing. It was everything I'd hoped our engagement party would be: joyful, loving, and focused on celebrating our future together. But the real validation came from the people who approached me throughout the evening. Several family friends mentioned how nice it was to attend a family event that wasn't overshadowed by drama. One of my uncles actually thanked me for having the courage to break the cycle that had dominated family gatherings for years. My fiancée was radiant. Without the stress of managing family tensions, she was able to relax and truly enjoy herself. Watching her laugh and dance and receive congratulations from people who genuinely cared about our happiness made me more certain than ever that I'd made the right choice. The party ended around midnight, and as we cleaned up, my fiancée told me she'd never felt more supported and loved. She said she finally understood what family celebrations were supposed to feel like. Meanwhile, my phone had been buzzing all evening with increasingly frantic messages from my family. I didn't read them until the next morning. Update 2. The messages were a mix of anger, guilt-tripping, and desperate attempts at manipulation. Mom had sent 17 texts ranging from accusations of cruelty to threats about the wedding to dramatic declarations about how I'd broken the family apart. My sister's messages were even more unhinged. She'd started by sending photos of herself crying, then moved on to long, rambling texts about how the family would never be the same. She accused me of choosing strangers over blood relatives and said she'd never felt so betrayed in her life. But the most telling message came from Dad around 11 p.m. He'd written that Mom and my sister had spent the entire day crying and calling family members to complain about my behavior. He said the house was like a funeral parlor and that he didn't know how to fix the situation. What struck me was that nowhere in any of the messages was there any acknowledgement that we'd just celebrated our engagement. No congratulations, no well wishes, no questions about how the party went. It was all about their hurt feelings and my supposed cruelty. I showed the messages to my fiancée, and she just shook her head. She said it was like they'd completely forgotten that we were the ones getting married and that this was supposed to be a happy time for us. I decided to respond with a single group text. I told them that the party had been wonderful and that we felt very loved and supported by the people who chose to celebrate with us. I said I hoped they could find it in their hearts to be happy for us, even if they disagreed with my decision. The response was immediate and explosive. Mom called me selfish and said I was gloating. My sister accused me of rubbing their faces in it and said I was a terrible brother. Dad tried to be the voice of reason, but still insisted that I needed to apologize and make things right. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't really about the engagement party at all. This was about power and control. For years, my family had operated under an unspoken rule that my sister's emotional needs came first, and everyone else had to adjust accordingly. By refusing to follow that rule, I challenged the entire family dynamic. They weren't actually hurt that they'd missed the party. They were furious that I dared to prioritize my own happiness over their dysfunction. Update 3. 3 weeks after the party, my sister showed up at my workplace. She'd somehow gotten past security and was waiting in the lobby when I came back from lunch. She looked terrible: unwashed hair, baggy clothes, dark circles under her eyes. She immediately started crying and begging me to talk to her. She said she'd been having panic attacks since the party and that her therapist said she needed closure with me to move forward. I agreed to step outside and talk, mostly because I didn't want to cause a scene at work. My sister launched into a prepared speech about how sorry she was and how she'd realized that her behavior had been unreasonable. She said she'd been so consumed by her own pain that she hadn't considered mine, and that she wanted to make things right between us. It sounded sincere, and for a moment I thought maybe we could actually resolve this. But then she got to the real reason she'd come. She said that Mom had been so depressed about our fight that she'd stopped eating properly and wasn't sleeping. She said Dad was worried about Mom's health and that the whole family was falling apart. She begged me to come to dinner that weekend so we could all reconcile and move forward. I asked what would happen at this dinner. Would there be an actual apology for trying to cancel our engagement party? Would there be acknowledgement that their behavior had been inappropriate? Would there be any recognition that I'd had valid reasons for my decision? My sister's face fell. She said she hoped we could just put the past behind us and focus on healing the family. She said holding grudges wasn't healthy and that we needed to forgive each other and move on. I realized she wanted reconciliation without accountability. She wanted the family peace restored without anyone actually admitting they'd done anything wrong. She wanted me to pretend the whole incident had never happened so everyone could go back to the way things were. I told my sister that I was willing to work on our relationship, but not if it meant pretending the engagement party situation hadn't revealed serious problems in our family dynamic. I said I needed to see genuine change, not just performance of remorse. She got angry then, dropping the apologetic act. She said I was being impossible and that I was destroying Mom's health with my stubbornness. She accused me of caring more about being right than about family harmony. That's when I knew nothing had really changed. She was still trying to manipulate me into accommodating her needs, just with different tactics. I told her I loved her, but that showing up at my workplace to pressure me wasn't appropriate, and that any future conversations about our relationship would need to happen with clearer boundaries. She left crying, but this time I didn't feel guilty about it. That evening, I got a call from Mom. She was furious that I'd made my sister cry again and accused me of being cruel and vindictive. She said I was punishing my sister for having emotions and that my behavior was unacceptable. I finally lost my patience. I told Mom that I was tired of being held responsible for managing everyone else's feelings while my own were completely disregarded. I said that until she could acknowledge that canceling our engagement party would have been wrong, and that my sister's emotional needs didn't supersede everyone else's happiness, we had nothing more to discuss. Mom hung up on me, but not before saying that I was no longer the son she'd raised, and that she didn't know who I'd become. Final update. It's been 2 months since the engagement party now, and the dust has settled somewhat. The family drama initially felt overwhelming, but I've come to realize that I made the right choice. My fiancée and I have grown closer through this experience. She's seen me stand up for our relationship and our future, and I've seen her unwavering support even when it would have been easier for her to encourage me to give in to keep the peace. We've started planning our wedding, and we've decided to keep it small and intimate. We're inviting people who genuinely celebrate our love, rather than feeling obligated to include family members who see our happiness as an inconvenience. Some extended family members have reached out privately to express support for my decision. My aunt told me she'd been waiting years for someone to stand up to my sister's dramatic tendencies. My cousin said he was proud of me for finally setting boundaries. As for my immediate family, we're in a cold war of sorts. Mom sends occasional guilt-tripping texts, usually triggered by family events or holidays. My sister has apparently told everyone who will listen that I've abandoned the family, painting herself as the victim of my cruelty. Dad tries to maintain contact, but he's clearly caught in the middle and doesn't know how to navigate the situation without taking sides. The strangest part is how much lighter I feel. For years, I dreaded family gatherings because they inevitably became about managing my sister's emotions or walking on eggshells around Mom's favoritism. Now, family events are optional rather than obligations, and I only attend the ones where I'll actually enjoy myself. My fiancé's family has essentially adopted me, and I'm experiencing what normal family dynamics look like for the first time. Her parents ask about my work and interests without immediately redirecting the conversation to someone else's problems. Her siblings include me in their group chats and invite us to casual hangouts without any underlying drama or manipulation. I know some people think I overreacted to the engagement party situation, but I disagree. It wasn't really about one party. It was about a lifetime pattern of my needs being secondary to my sister's wants, and my parents enabling that dynamic. The engagement party was just the moment I finally had something worth fighting for and the courage to do it. My sister deserved support during her difficult time, but not at the expense of our celebration. My parents deserved consideration and respect, but not blind obedience to their unreasonable demands. And I deserved to celebrate my engagement without it being overshadowed by family drama, apologizing for my happiness, or managing other people's emotions. The meltdown that ensued when I uninvited them was indeed pathetic, grown adults throwing tantrums because they couldn't control my choices anymore. But it was also perfect because it showed me exactly what I was dealing with and validated my decision completely. I have no regrets about choosing my own happiness over family dysfunction. If that makes me selfish, then I'm okay with being selfish. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable toxic behavior, even when it comes from family. Especially when it comes from family.